All right, we are going to square one end of a log off. To do that, in a previous video, we had laid out center lines and we had snapped uh, center lines, blue lines along those marks. The whole point of that is, as this is an irregular shaped surface and somewhat round, we need to use blue lines, snap lines for the centering process. I guess you can't see this one quite well. It's in this crack. So how I do that is I'll take a framing square, and if I want to do it by myself, this can be done with two people or it can be done with one. But I can hook my tape measure on the framing square, align the long side of the framing square on the blue line. Now it's parallel. I can come over to this side. I can lay this framing square along this blue line and butt it up against the other square. Now I can make a mark, and looking down these two planes of the two squares, I can just make a couple of marks. So now I have mark here, 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 here. I take a bendable ruler. I hold it on those marks. And now I have a line that is square to these two lines. Next, I can take a utility knife and using my thumb as a lever, I need to cut that line accurately with my utility knife. The log will, as I cut it with a chainsaw, will break out on that line. So now I have that half done. I can switch my tape around, put the framing square back on parallel to the top blue line. Take the other framing square, move to this side of the log. I'm aligning the long edge of this framing square with the line on this side, sighting both squares where they intersect visually. Again, take my bendable ruler, lay it along the marks I've just made. Knife it. And it would be ready to cut at least halfway through. For cutting, we're going to cut that side, which I did already, lay a line all the way around. I'll knife it again, leveraging with my thumb. Very, very, very important to split that line with the knife. That's what you will see as you cut. All right, I'm going to cut on this side. Before I cut it, I am going to make a small crow's foot, or tick mark, we call it. And the reason being, we want to be able to re-put the crosshair that we had put on the end of the log back on the piece once we've finished cutting it off. Now, vitally important on cutting this is I am only going to cut halfway through. I have seen some people be able to cut all the way through accurately. Most people can't. The technique of what I want to show you is I'm going to hold the saw. I'm holding it primarily with my body to take the weight off. It's not all being supported by my arms. I'm going to barely cut in, and then I'm going to pull the top of the bar up as I drop the back side of the bottom of the saw. And once I reach this lower part, I'll dig in, I call these the dogs, the teeth, into the log, and then I can pivot over, kind of like what a chop box or a miter saw would do. So let me demonstrate that cut. I'm only cutting in slightly to start with. Now I'll drop the back of the saw down. If you notice, I've really only gone in about 3/8 deep. I am not continuing to cut with the front side of the saw yet. Now that I'm down to halfway, I can engage the dog part of the chainsaw, and I can pivot over. And I'm only cutting halfway through. At this point, I can roll the log and I'll repeat the process. Again, has to be knifed. And there's nothing wrong with at first miming these actions before you actually engage the saw, so you have a feel for it before you actually make the cut. Now that it's cut off, and I've cut as close to the line as I can without actually going past the line, I'll change the saw angle and I will brush the wood with this motion, pivoting on my hip, and flatten this surface completely flat. If I start the chainsaw. couple of quick notes. When you are brushing, you want to use as much of the middle of the bar as possible. This is the flattest part of the bar. I'm not trying to use the tip in this case. And I only go one direction if I'm brushing down. I go down, I lift the saw blade, I go down, I lift the saw away. I also let off the trigger in between each of those motions to cool down the engine. But once it is brushed and brushed flat, if you put a level on or a flat surface on the end of the log, it can be done extremely flat. Now we'll just reconnect those lines, and that is it for squaring a log.